Good evening, everyone. We don't have an echo. I think we're good to get started. Hopefully, no other tech issues happen this evening. I'm Kelly Wilson, and this is Cooking with Plants. Tonight, we're going to be talking about plant-based proteins. Last month, we talked about beans and lentils or legumes, which is a type of plant-based protein. This month, excuse me, we're going to be talking about plant-based protein in general, and then our recipes are going to focus more on soy-based proteins. So let's go ahead and get started with a couple housekeeping things. For those who want closed captioning, the image that you're seeing on your screen here is the instructions for how to do that. So you will go up to the three dots that say more. That's on the top right hand side of your screen. There's a bunch of icons. Click that. It'll open up a drop down menu. You can scroll to language and then click on that, and then you'll have turn on live captions. Okay, so that's how you get closed captioning. And if you would like to submit questions, there is a Q&A feature. So on the top left of that icon toolbar, there are two little overlapping bubbles that say Q&A. If you have a burning question that's related to the content for tonight's class, please go ahead and type in your question there. Please make sure it's a question that's relevant to the whole group and to the content. If you have a question that's specific for you and kind of based on your circumstances or your health conditions, feel welcome to email us at lifestylemedicine@trinity-health.org, and we'll make sure that you get an answer. If it's a more involved question that might warrant meeting one-on-one with somebody, we might suggest scheduling an actual consult. So again, we do want you to participate. We do want you to ask questions. We know that you're muted and your cameras are off, and that's not because we don't want you to engage in this class. It's just because we are recording these classes, and it helps for getting a nice clean recording. We don't get interruptions or background noise that way, but we do want you to participate, so please use that Q&A feature. Now, for those of you who haven't been with us in our other classes, nice to meet you. I'm Kelly Wilson. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist here at Trinity Health Ann Arbor in the lifestyle medicine department. So I get to talk to folks about the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, which are a whole food plant-based diet, which we're focusing on in this culinary class series. We talk to folks about how they're moving their body, how they're managing stress, the positive relationships that they have in their life and how to develop those, making sure that they're getting restorative sleep, and how to avoid risky substances. So those 6 pillars make up lifestyle medicine, which is a medical subspecialty that uses evidence-based information in each of those 6 pillars to help treat, prevent, and reverse chronic disease. So in our lifestyle medicine department, we have classes like this that apply the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. We have a foundations class that goes through each of those 6 pillars, and I'll give you more information on that later this evening. And then we do offer appointments with folks as well on our team. So this is a culinary class, and I just wanted to share a little bit about my culinary philosophy before we get started. I think a lot of times folks are intimidated by the kitchen, and especially when starting a plant-forward journey or trying to add some of these plant-forward foods into your diet, it might feel a little scary. But I'm here to tell you that anybody can be a cook. You don't have to have fancy ingredients. You don't have to go to culinary school. You don't have to have fancy equipment. All the recipes that we make in class are budget friendly, and they're ingredients that you will find at most any grocery store. You don't have to shop at Whole Foods or a specialty food store to find the ingredients that we use in class tonight. And I also want to remind you that recipes are suggestions. So for the most part, with the exception of like baking, which is a strong science, you can swap in and out ingredients based on your budget, your taste preferences, and what you might have available in your kitchen case you run out of something. So use the recipes in this class as a guide, and then get creative and make them your own, or make swaps if you don't have the ingredients that I'm talking about. And if this is all new to you, pick a place to start that is familiar. So for example, last week or last month, excuse me, we talked about a taco recipe. Okay. A lot of people enjoy tacos. That's something that most of us are familiar with. We've had tacos before. We made a black bean taco, which was just a slight different spin on a familiar food. So think about the things that you already enjoy eating, and how can you add some more of these plant-based ingredients that we're talking about in this series into those meals. Okay. And then these recipes that we're talking about could be that next step to explore some new flavors, or maybe you're ready to jump right in and you start making some of these recipes right now. And then I just also want to remind you to be patient. Change takes time. And if you're new to this journey, it's a process. And we always like to remind people that it's persistent progress that we're going for, not perfection. Okay. You don't have to eat plant-based every single day of the week, every single meal necessarily, but how can you challenge yourself to get some more of these whole, unprocessed, health promoting plant foods in a few meals a week at least? Okay, so start with where you are and start challenging yourself to increase those plant foods, and then celebrate every success, no matter how small it is. It matters, and it's a step on that journey towards better health. So this is our series. We are in our 4th class of the year. Like I said, we're talking about plant-based proteins. If you've missed any of the previous classes, they are recorded, they are on YouTube, and they are also on our cooking class website, which is linked in the email I sent out this morning, as well as it will be in our follow-up email with the recording for tonight's class. So if you ever lose that website, look for it in those emails, and you can go back and watch any of the recordings there, or on Trinity Health's YouTube channel as well. And then you can look ahead and see kind of what's coming up, and mark your calendars for the classes that you want to join. If you've already registered for the class series, if you're here tonight, you do not have to register for subsequent classes. You'll automatically get the emails with the links letting you know that there's a class coming up. So tonight's class, we're going to be talking about the benefits of protein, some frequently asked questions that our team encounters when folks are maybe making a shift to a plant-forward diet. And then we're going to talk about where you can get protein if you're following a whole food, plant-based way of eating. And then we're going to do 3 recipes. We're going to make a tofu scramble, tempeh fajitas, and then a really easy edamame stir fry. Before we get into this content, I also want to remind people that the information that we're presenting is general information. Most people can benefit from adding more plant foods to their diet. However, if you have a specific health condition, some of what we share may or may not apply to you. And I would encourage you to speak with your physician and your registered dietitian before making drastic changes to your diet. You can email us at lifestylemedicine@trinity-health.org if you need help connecting to a provider, registered dietitian, or a lifestyle medicine physician. All right, let's talk protein. So I think protein gets a lot of attention, and it's for a variety of reasons, right? It's a very important nutrient for our body because it supports immune health, muscle building, repair, blood sugar balance, that feeling of fullness that we get, which is the satiety. It's important for producing hormones and enzymes, which catalyze or kickstart a lot of different reactions in our body. And we can get protein from a variety of different sources, both plant and animal. However, when we include more plant-based proteins, we're getting added benefits. So we're getting our protein and all of these other good things too. We're getting fiber, which I think we've talked about in previous classes, but fiber is such an important nutrient for our gut health, for developing a good gut microbiome. It also helps with blood sugar balance and keeping us full. It makes sure that we have good poops, which who doesn't love that? It's a really important nutrient, and we can only get it from plant foods. So when we're eating plant-based protein, we're getting the protein and we're getting that fiber. Plant-based proteins also have phytonutrients. Phyto means plant. So you guessed it, these are compounds, again, that are only found in plant-based foods. These phytonutrients act as antioxidants, which means they fight damage to our cells. They influence our genes, maybe turning on some helpful ones and off some harmful ones, which can provide a host of health benefits to us. And then eating plant-based proteins also supports planetary health. So it's not only good for us, but it's good for the environment as well. Meat products produce more greenhouse gases per calorie than any plant-based protein. And there's a study out of the University of Michigan that noted if we were just to replace one meal a week, which a colleague reminded me today is 5% of your diet, with a plant-based source of protein, so you just have plant foods on your plate, it's the equivalent of taking your car off of the road for the distance it takes to drive from here to Daytona Beach, Florida. Wild, right? That's a really significant impact for one small change, changing 5% of your diet. So now that we know some of the benefits of protein, let's talk about some of the common questions that we get when folks are making a shift to adding more plant proteins to their diet. We get asked, okay, can I get enough protein? How am I going to meet my needs? Okay, hopefully by the end of this conversation today, you'll definitely be convinced you can meet your protein needs. Do I need to combine proteins? What's that all about? And do I need to be worried about soy? These are the really common questions that we get asked. So let's start with, can I get enough? The short answer is yes, you can get enough protein by eating plant-based foods, but needs vary by age, gender, activity level, health condition. But the average person only needs about 15 to 20 grams of protein per meal. Okay, so if you're an adult under 60, that's kind of the rough ballpark. And I'm not sharing that because I want you to count your grams of protein. I'm sharing that so you have that reference point in your head. So as we go throughout the conversation today, you can see how a meal might stack up to get us towards that goal. Okay. So for example, you can see on the screen here the breakdown of a really basic grain bowl. Okay, so our grain bowl has a base of a half cup of brown rice, which is giving us 5 grams of protein. Okay, we've got a half cup of black beans that's giving us 7 grams of protein. We've got 1 cup of broccoli for 3 grams of protein, and a couple tablespoons of pumpkin seeds for some extra crunch, 4 grams of protein, and then some dressing, or maybe we're throwing some salsa. Doesn't really have much protein in there, but that's where our flavor is coming from. So you add that all together, and we're almost at 20 grams of protein without really even trying. Okay, so hopefully you can see, you think about your meals that you're eating, and you can start to see maybe how it stacks up pretty quickly. And as long as you're eating a variety of nutrient-dense foods and including some of these plant-based sources of protein that we're going to talk about, you're going to be able to meet that 15 to 20 grams per meal easily, no problem. So the next question that we get asked a lot is whether or not you need to combine certain foods in order to get a complete protein. Okay, so proteins are comprised of 20 different amino acids. Okay, these are the building blocks of protein. You can think of them that way. In our bodies, we can make 11 of these amino acids, but the other 9 we need to get from the foods that we eat. And so because we can't make them in our bodies, we call them essential. Okay, all plant foods actually have these essential amino acids, but some are maybe a little bit lower in 1 or 2 of them than others. For example, grains are a little bit lower in lysine, beans are a little bit lower in methionine. And so at one time, we thought that this meant we had to combine grains and beans so that they would kind of make up for that imbalance. However, we now know that our body actually maintains a pool of amino acids. And so, as long as we're eating a variety of different foods throughout the day, throughout the week, we're going to be able to get all of those amino acids that we need. And then our body does the work of combining them to make the proteins and other compounds that are needed. Okay, so variety is key here. That's the most important part. You don't have to worry about combining different foods to get a complete protein. Now, what about soy? So it's been widely studied, and we get asked a lot of questions about this because there were some conflicting conclusions, right? So when I was going through my training as a baby dietitian, we had a lot of animal models that were showing, okay, well, maybe soy is not great for folks who have breast cancer. However, now we know based on human studies and long-term human population studies that soy is actually beneficial when it comes to cancer and a whole host of other diseases. Okay, so it's safe to consume soy several times a week, and it does provide, or is likely to provide, health benefits, especially if it's replacing red or processed meats. Okay, so the latest research tells us soy is full of isoflavones or phytoestrogens. These behave very differently in our body than the hormone estrogen. And it's actually been shown to be, these isoflavones, these phytoestrogens, have been shown to be cardioprotective and help prevent the reoccurrence of breast and prostate cancer. Okay, soy foods also have a compound called B6. So it's a vitamin, which is really important for the production of serotonin and melatonin. So serotonin is that feel-good brain chemical, and melatonin is that hormone that helps us regulate our circadian rhythm, so we get a restful, restorative sleep. And then soy foods also have genistein, which is a really potent antioxidant, and it helps promote antioxidant production. Now, we also do get asked a lot of questions like, okay, I have a thyroid condition, or I'm worried about developing one. Do I need to worry about soy? And the latest research actually tells us that if you have normal thyroid function, or even if you have hypothyroidism, you do not need to worry about consuming soy a few times a week. If you have hypothyroidism, the only thing you need to pay attention to is the timing of when you consume that soy. So when you take your thyroid medication, you want to make sure that you're not consuming soy within 1 to 3 hours of taking that medication. And that's a general rule of thumb for a lot of foods as well with that thyroid medication. All right, so now we're through those frequently asked questions. Where are we getting protein from in our plant-based diet? I'm wondering if some of these answers might surprise you. So I would, if they do, would love to hear that in the Q&A. So let's start with soy foods, and we'll start with soy milk. So soy milk is actually mature soybeans. So you can see them on the slide here. They're those tiny kind of round beans. Soy is a legume, it's a bean. And these mature soybeans are left until the plant dries down and they get really hard and dry. Those beans are soaked in water and then they are pressed, and you get this soy milk. It's commonly fortified with calcium. So if you're looking to get calcium and you're trying to move towards more of a plant-based diet, a fortified soy milk could help you in that endeavor. If you do make the switch to a soy milk, just make sure you're looking for an unsweetened option. And soy milk, from a protein standpoint, is very similar to cow's milk. It's got 7 grams per cup. Cow's milk has about 8 grams per cup. So it's a very quick equivalent. Historically, soy milk was just a step on the process of making tofu, but now it's very readily available in most grocery stores. Aldi, Meijer, Kroger, most grocery stores across the country have lots of soy milk options. So tofu, I mentioned that tofu is made from soy milk, right? So we can think of it kind of like soy milk cheese in a sense. And the process to make tofu has been going on for centuries. Okay. And this process, it takes that soy milk, it adds a curdling agent, which could be magnesium chloride or calcium sulfate, which then creates kind of curds or pieces of protein in the liquid, kind of gets all the proteins to precipitate together. Okay. And then those curds, those pieces are pressed and to separate the solids from the liquid. Okay. And the length of time that those curds are pressed gives us the different types of tofu. So you may have seen at the grocery store silken, firm, extra firm, and you're like, okay, what is the difference between all those different kinds? And really, it's just the amount of time that they were pressed. So silken tofu was pressed for the least amount of time. So it has a soft, creamy kind of consistency, which makes it really great for making desserts. You can make a wonderful tofu silk pie with chocolate chips and silken tofu and a little bit of sweetener. And it's like a cheesecake without all the cream cheese. It's also great for adding to smoothies. So you have a solid protein option in your breakfast smoothie. Firm and extra firm tofu, kind of interchangeably. Again, they're pressed longer and they're going to be more spongy and hold their shape a little bit better. These are really good for making stir fries with crumbling. Today, we're going to make a scramble. You can use them as a ricotta substitute. This or extra firm is really what you want to use if you're going to do like a pan fry or grilling, because it's going to hold its shape much better than a silken tofu will. All right, I'm going to pause for a drink real quick. All right, and our next soy food is tempeh. So we're going to do a tempeh recipe tonight, and we'll talk a little bit more about it then. Tempeh is fermented soybeans pressed into a block. So it's the mature soybeans mixed with a grain and then inoculated with a fungus and then left to ferment. And that fermentation process does make the tempeh a little bit more digestible, and it does add some good healthy bacteria to that food. So we're getting the benefits of those probiotics and the good bacteria as well. Now, because this tempeh is usually made with a grain, if you have any allergies to like a grain, like say you have celiac, for example, you do want to check the package on your tempeh and make sure that it's made with just a brown rice or another gluten-free grain. I know like the tempeh at Trader Joe's, for example, they use barley in their mix, so that would mean it would not be gluten-free. So just pay attention to that. Tempeh is a food that has been traditionally consumed in Indonesia for centuries, very long time. And it's got a chewier, meatier texture than a tofu. Tofu can be really soft, and some people, that texture might be a little off-putting. So if that's you and you're looking for a new soy food to kind of challenge yourself to try, maybe tempeh is that next one that you want to try, because it does have more texture to it. And tempeh, we're getting 18 grams of protein per a little over half of the package. So really protein dense for a small quantity. Our last soy food is edamame. So we're going to do an edamame recipe tonight as well. Edamame is the fresh soybean. Okay, that's the bean. We don't eat the pod because it's really tough and fibrous. Nothing bad's going to happen to you if you eat it. You might get a little stomach upset. Just also not a pleasant experience because they're a little hairy and chewy. So we just eat the bean in the center. And you can think of this kind of like the sugar snap pea equivalent, other than you're just not eating the pod. Okay, you can buy these in the shell and use them as a fun snack. You steam them, sprinkle a little salt on them, or you can buy them shelled like you see in the picture here, and that's what we're going to use in tonight's class. You usually find them in the frozen food section, and they're usually both right next to each other, the shelled or unshelled. I often go for the unshelled because it just adds a lot more versatility to what you can put with it. And with our edamame, we're getting 7 grams of protein per half cup. Lentils and beans, another great source of fiber, and we did a whole class on that last month. So if you missed it, go to the YouTube channel, go to the class website, and you can watch that class. These are called legumes. Soy is also a legume. You might also see them referred to as pulses, all just a name for the same thing. These are a great source of fiber, one of the best sources of fiber in our plant-based world. You're getting 7 to 9 grams of protein per half cup as well. So great fiber, great protein option. Nuts and seeds also have protein. One of the most protein dense seeds are hemp seeds or hemp hearts, so the shelled hemp seeds. You will find these in the grocery store, usually in the baking aisle, or if you've seen the brand Bob's Red Mill, often wherever that is in your grocery store, hemp seeds and chia seeds and other kind of specialty seeds like that will be in that section. Pumpkin seeds are also a really protein dense seed. You're getting 8 grams of protein per quarter cup. And then nut butters average about 7 grams of protein per 2 tablespoons, which is about the size of a golf ball. And maybe surprise, surprise to some of you, whole grains, which we've talked about before, also have protein in them. So quinoa, depending on the brand, 7 to 9 grams of protein per cup. Amaranth, similar protein content. And wild rice also has a similar protein content. And oats have up to 10 grams of protein per cup. So if you think about that soy milk from before, and you think about a bowl of oatmeal, you used just even a half cup of rolled oats with a cup of soy milk for your breakfast, and then you put 2 tablespoons of your hemp seeds on top, you're getting over 20 grams of protein right there in that bowl. Okay, so it stacks up really quickly. And last but not least, veggies have protein. I know it's surprising, but yes, vegetables have protein in them too. Green peas, which are in that legume family, have more than any other vegetable. So you're getting 9 grams of protein per cup. But the other veggies you see listed here, broccoli, spinach, asparagus, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and Brussels sprouts, they're also going to give you about 3 to 5 grams of protein per cup. So we've talked about a lot of different foods. Hopefully by now, you're starting to see how some of these plant-based foods can add up really quickly to help you meet that roughly 15 to 20 grams protein goal per meal. Promise, it happens fast. It happens without you even really thinking about it, as long as you're eating a variety of different foods, whole plant-based foods. All right, now that we've covered those bases, let's get into the kitchen and start cooking our 3 recipes. So I'm going to stop my slideshow and transition us over to the kitchen. Hopefully everybody can see that okay. All right. So our first recipe of the night is going to be a tofu scramble. So what we're going to do, I first want to show you, this is the tofu, the package, how it comes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it out of this package, drain it. I'm going to tilt my camera down so that you can see here. Okay, so I've got my package here. I just usually like to take a paring knife. I just have my large chef knife, and I'm going to cut around the edges. Okay, and it's really liquidy, so just be careful You do that. And then I'm going to dump that liquid into my bowl here. You can dump it into your sink at home, but I just cut a couple sides so that I can keep it in here. And I'm shaking all that liquid out. Okay. And then there's my tofu block. Right. And then I'm going to put it onto some paper here to my cutting board. And I'm just going to kind of pat it dry. For this recipe, I'm not worried about it being too wet because we're making a scramble, and that scramble is going to be soft. So I'm just patting it dry. Okay. And then I'm going to put that into my bowl here, and we're going to come back to that in a second. So we're going to go over here to the stove. I'm going to get my skillet going. So we're looking right here, and you guys can't see that one very well. So I'm going to turn my camera a little bit. All right, so where my hand is, that's where we're going. And we're going to start with about a tablespoon of oil. You could also do some water. Oops, I'm going upside down, and so I turned on the wrong burner. That would be helpful. There we go. Okay, for here, I've got about a tablespoon of oil. I'm using an avocado oil. You could use an olive oil. You could use a tablespoon of water if that's what you prefer. And then to that pan, once that gets warm, we're going to add a diced onion and a couple cloves of minced garlic. While we're waiting for that pan to get warm, I want to show you how I got to that onion. So this is half an onion on the cutting board that has been peeled. And I cut it in half by slicing from the root tip, which is that papery, the stem tip, which is that papery portion, down towards the root tip. And now what I'm going to do to get evenly sliced pieces to help me get to my dice, which is evenly sized, kind of square-like pieces, I'm going to follow these grooves on the edge of the onion. Okay, so I'm taking my knife, pinching it between my thumb and my first finger, wrapping my 3 fingers around that to give me a nice sturdy handle. I'm slicing off that stem end, and then I'm going to take the tip of my knife, use those guidelines to make slices. I am not slicing all the way through to the root end. I'm leaving that attached so that all my pieces stay together. This kind of makes my job a little bit easier for me. Okay, so we're going all the way around, keeping your other fingers out of the way, and then we slice the opposite direction. Okay, until we get to where our slices stopped, and then we can make some more thin slices kind of on those lines. Okay, and then I'll set that apart aside, and there we go. We've got our onion with evenly sized pieces. So we're going to add that to our skillet here. Starting to get warm. And I heard it sizzle just a little bit. One thing you can do to test to see when your skillet is warm enough is if you take a little bit of water on your fingertips and you splash it in there, you want to see that bubble and sizzle a little bit. But for the sake of time, we're just going to go ahead and add these in here and it'll be just fine. So we've got our 2 cloves of garlic and our medium onion diced in there. Our garlic was minced. Okay, and while those get up to temperature, we're also going to cut another thing here. So this is a red pepper. The recipe calls for 1 small or medium pepper. I like to cut the pepper by laying it on its side, like you see here, and slicing off the top and the bottom. We're not going to throw them away. We're going to use both of these. You can then, with the stem here, take your fingers and kind of pop out the stem. There you go. And like, we'll use this red part. We'll discard this green part. Okay. And then for your pepper here, stand it up. And then you can see where the seeds and the pith, which is that white stuff is, and just slice by turning your pepper around. Okay. And then we also, by doing that, get kind of square pieces right? There's not the curve up at the end here. So then we can more easily stack these peppers and make slices that then we can gather together and slice the opposite direction. And again, there we go. We've got our evenly sized kind of square pieces for our dice. Okay, we're going to do that to the rest of our pepper here. You could use any color pepper you want to here. If you don't love peppers, you could swap in another veggie. So in scrambles, think about like scrambled eggs and things that you like in that. That's basically what we're making. We're just using the tofu instead of the eggs. Okay, so we're going to slice these bottom parts too. That's going to go in here. So if you see on a recipe, dice, that is medium-sized, evenly sized kind of square pieces. Don't worry about being perfect. The idea is that you just get them close to about the same size so that they cook evenly. Okay, that's our goal. All right, I'm going to give our onions and garlic a stir here on your stovetop screen. Okay, we can start to see the onions and the garlic changing color. Okay, we really want the onions to start to become kind of glassy and translucent. That's what we're going for. While that is going, we're going to also add in our next. We got 1.5 cups of mushrooms. So these are baby Bella mushrooms. You could use the regular white button mushrooms. Doesn't matter. You can use them interchangeably. So we had 1.5 cups, and that was about half of an 8-ounce package of mushrooms. And I usually don't run my mushrooms under water because when to clean them, I usually just use a paper towel to wipe off any of the soil that might be still clinging to them, because they grow in an inert medium, and running them underwater, they're kind of spongy and they can absorb a lot of water, and then they tend to get a little spongy when we cook them. So that's my preference. I usually just use a paper towel to wipe them off. We're going to add in our peppers here now. Okay, and we're going to let those cook together. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit. All right. So now while those are cooking, we are going to break up our tofu here. So on the cutting board, you should see our bowl with our tofu. We're just going to break this up into curds or like pieces, like if this was scrambled egg. So that's kind of the size that I want. I'm just using a fork and going through and just kind of breaking up the block with the fork. You want to kind of stir it around a little bit to get rid of any of the little square pieces or pieces that are too large. That looks pretty good there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is add this. Pan. I want to give these just another minute or so to cook. So other veggies that you could add into this pan, you could do some greens, some baby kale, some spinach. If you wanted to do some diced tomatoes, that would be a great addition here. Some people really like to add like herbs like basil to an omelet. You could add that. I wouldn't add that here with your veggies. I would do that closer to the end, but that's totally something you can add in as well. All right, we're going to add in our tofu. Give that a little stir. Great. And then we are going to add in, we've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika. Okay, the smoked paprika is going to give us kind of that smoky, savory kind of flavor. The turmeric is going to help give us a little bit of that yellow color that we're used to when we eat something like a scrambled egg. Okay, if you make this recipe and you're like, hey, I need it to be even more yellow, go ahead and add some more turmeric. It's not a problem. Another spice that you could add here, there's 2 options you could add here to increase kind of that sulfur kind of taste or aroma to this dish. Our onions and our garlic are helping with that, but eggs themselves have a lot of sulfur compounds in them. And so when you think of that rotten egg smell, right, it's really sulfurous. So one of the things that we kind of miss when we're eating a tofu scramble is that sulfur. And so you can add that back with something called asafoetida or hing, H-I-N-G, and you can get that at an Indian grocery store, or something called black salt, which is very sulfurous. You can add a pinch of that. If you use the asafoetida or the black salt, you would just want to add a pinch because a little goes a long way. And last but not least, we are going to add in some nutritional yeast. This is what nutritional, I would actually put that on the cutting board. You can see that on the cutting board, the bottle of nutritional yeast. It is dead yeast, deactivated yeast that typically is fortified with vitamin B12. So it can be a source of B12 for folks who are on a fully plant-based diet. I like to use it in our recipes because it also adds a kind of savory, cheesy flavor. And you can see to our eggs here, the color change that happened when that nutritional yeast was added to our tofu scramble here. So it's also supporting that kind of yellow color that we're used to in a scramble. Okay, so that's our scramble. I'm going to turn that off because we are done. It is ready to go, ready to serve with a piece of whole grain toast. Or if you wanted to put it on top of some whole grain, it'd be perfect for that too. I'm going to set this aside, swap out for another skillet. Okay. So our next recipe is an easy edamame stir fry. So we're going to start with some minced garlic, or excuse me, minced ginger. Here. And we are going to start with some minced garlic now. Thank you. So to mince our garlic, what we're going to do is we're going to take the heel of our knife, press down, and that helps kind of crack the paper off of the garlic. Peel that off. And then we are going to slice off these root ends here. And you can see my garlic here is starting to sprout. So this is some local garlic, and it wasn't treated with a anti-sprouting agent. And this is in Michigan. This is the time of year when garlic starts sprouting because garlic is a bulb and it behaves very much like tulips, right? And our tulips and our daffodils are coming up right now, and the garlic wants to come up right now too. So I'm just taking the stems that those little leaves that are starting to come out. They're not going to hurt you to eat them. Some people just perceive their taste as a little bit bitter. So we're just going to get rid of them so we don't have any extra bitterness hanging around. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather my cloves together, and I'm just going to kind of make thin slices. I think we've talked about this before, but if you haven't been with us, one thing that's really helpful in cooking with garlic to maximize its potency in terms of health benefits is to mince it about 10 to 15 minutes before you plan to use it. So we won't be doing that tonight, but in your home kitchen, it's usually good practice to start with your garlic, because there's a compound that's produced when garlic sits and is exposed to oxygen. It's called allicin, ALLICIN, and it is a very potent anti-inflammatory, and it does not get produced, or we don't get as much of it produced just with mincing our garlic and then immediately throwing it into our pan. Now you're getting other health benefits. There's a lot of there's a bunch of organosulfur compounds and garlic and onions that are really helpful with our body's detoxification pathways and can support garlic is really helpful in some cholesterol lowering as well. So there's other health benefits beyond just that allicin, but to get that maximum power from the garlic and get that allicin, we just want to let it sit for that 10 to 15 minutes. All right, so our garlic is minced. I'm going to add it to our minced ginger here, which the process for the ginger was pretty much exactly the same. We did peel it. It was a 1-inch piece of ginger, fresh ginger. You could use powdered ginger in this recipe if you wanted to, if you didn't have the fresh. The fresh lends a sweetness and a spiciness that you don't get from the dried, so you would be missing out on that, but it is totally acceptable to swap in the dried. Next, we are going to slice up our cabbage. So this is half of a small red cabbage, and actually this leaf is a little wilty. See that? So I'm going to take that off of here. After I've sliced it in half and peeled away any leaves that look a little wilty, we need to core it. So this is the center of the stem or the core, and it's really hard and fibrous. We don't want to eat that. It's really tough to chew. So we're going to take the tip of our chef's knife, slice at about a 45-degree angle down one side, and then do the same thing on the other side until we get kind of this triangle B. And then we should be able to pop out the core right there. Let's see, I didn't quite get all of it, but that's okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to thinly slice our cabbage. Okay, and we're going to be cooking this in our skillet in a moment. And while I'm slicing that, I'm going to turn on my skillet actually. Here. Get that going. And I've got 2 tablespoons of water. We're going to do a water saute. This time we used some oil in our last recipe. Just want to show you that you can do a saute with water as well. And we are going to add in our garlic and our ginger. Okay. And then while that is getting sauteed, we're going to finish slicing our cabbage. Cabbage, cruciferous vegetables. So these are things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, radishes, and collards are also in this family. They all have a compound called sulforaphane, which is a really potent modulator of our body's inflammatory response. And it can turn on our internal antioxidant production, and it can also act as a antioxidant as well, and can mediate our anti-inflammatory responses. So there's a piece of the core, and I'm going to take that out. I don't want that in here. So you saw me, I thinly sliced the cabbage lengthwise, and then I cut it in half so we get more kind of manageable bite-sized pieces. We're going to add that into, oh, will you grab me the edamame from the freezer? Thank you. I'm going to add that into our skillet here. Okay, I'm just going to kind of break it up. It's cabbage, those leaf layers are really densely packed. Just want to break up a little bit of those so that they together well. And the fun thing about using, you could use purple cabbage in here as well. It's in the bottom shelf center. Okay, sorry about that. So the fun thing about using the purple cabbage, we're also getting some anthocyanins, which is what is giving it that purple color. And those anthocyanins are really good for cognitive health and heart health as well. All right, our stuff is sticking a little bit here, so we're going to add a little bit more. Skillet. Perfect. Okay. Forgot one other thing. Could you grab me a lid from that will cover the skillet? Thank you. All right, and then we're going to add, so this is our bag of edamame. You can see that on our cutting board here. It's also, you'll see it called mukamame at the grocery store sometimes, depending on the brand. This is I think it's a 12-ounce bag, excuse me, 10-ounce bag of edamame. And we're going to add the whole thing into our skillet here. Okay. We want to make sure that we cook edamame before we eat it. It's not going to hurt you. It's not like it's poisonous or anything if you were to eat it raw, but it could create some GI distress. So we want to make sure that we're cooking it all the way through to avoid that. We're going to let that steam for a little while we work on our final recipe, and then we'll come back and finish off that edamame. So our last recipe, we're going to use this other skillet over here. So I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. There you go. You can see this. We are going to make a really fast tempeh fajita blend. So this is tempeh. Okay, this is that Trader Joe's that I package that I was telling you about. So this is what it looks like in the package. Most tempeh is packaged this way. There are a couple local brands in Michigan. The Brinery is a really wonderful one. Their tempeh is in the frozen section at some grocery stores, and it comes in kind of more square pieces. But most grocery stores, it's going to be in a long block like this. Light Life is a brand that you most commonly see that has a red kind of package. So we took this block, I cut it into pieces about the width of my pinky finger, okay, on the short side. So we get kind of tempeh fingers, if you will, okay? And then I steamed them using this kind of steamer basket inserted into a sauce pot. I put water up to the bottom of this, put a lid on it, and I steamed the tempeh pieces for 15 minutes. And the reason why we do that is to cut down on some of the bitterness that some people taste and experience in the tempeh, and to also allow the tempeh to absorb and take on the flavors of whatever we're putting with it. That steaming process makes the tempeh soak up the flavor. So after we steamed it, you can see that there are some seasonings on here. So we put the juice from 2 limes. We put a ½ teaspoon of cumin, a tablespoon of olive oil, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, and a ½ teaspoon of chili powder. Mixed that all together, and then have been letting this sit while we've been in class. So it's been over an hour, but you really only need to let it sit for like 20, 30 minutes, and then you're good to go. And then what we will do here, so I've got my skillet here. I'm going to turn it on. We're going to add our tempeh here to that skillet, and we're just going to let that get warmed. Thank you. While that's happening, I'm going to add one other ingredient to our skillet here with the edamame. We've got some frozen brassica veggies. So this is a colorful cauliflower mix. It's a rainbow cauliflower. And we thought that would be a really fun addition since we've also already got some beautiful colors going on in this stir fry, to add some other fun ones. Again, you're getting some anthocyanins from the purple cauliflower. You're getting some more carotenoids from the orange or kind of yellowish cauliflower. And all of these cauliflowers are like nutritionally, beyond the different phytonutrients that are giving them their color, are all the same, you know, and they taste the same. It's a fun thing if you have little kids sometimes to get the different colored veggies. You know, there's some kids in our nutrition buddies class that they really want to eat the purple rice or the purple cauliflower because their favorite color is purple. So that's one strategy to get some kids to try some different veggies. All right, so back to our tempeh here. Our goal here is just to start getting it warmed through. Looks like that is starting to happen. I can feel that heat coming off of here. So what we're going to do next then is add in a bag of frozen stir fry mix. So this is just peppers, green and red peppers, and some onions. If you did not want to use frozen, you could totally use a fresh red or a green pepper and a medium onion. But I promised that we would make some fast and easy recipes, so we're using some frozen veggies to show you how fast a meal can really come together. Okay, and now all we're going to do is let this get fully warmed through. Let the veggies get defrosted, and we are good to go. And this is ready to stick into a corn tortilla. It's a great topping to a brown rice bowl that you throw some salsa, you throw some avocado on top of to really make it a fully nourishing plant-based meal. The tempeh, the process that we did with the steaming, you can change the flavor and you can change the veggies here in this dish and get a whole variety of different meals. So you could add, let's say, instead of the seasonings we used, you wanted to do some olive oil and lemon juice and maybe some za'atar seasoning, which is a Mediterranean kind of spice blend. And then you marinated the tempeh in that and you warmed it in your skillet with maybe some frozen broccoli. And then you have a little more of a Mediterranean style bowl that you could put together. So lots of different options. Just this process can be applied again with different types of veggies and different types of seasonings, and it's still the same steps. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the recipe. All right, we're going to move back over to our last move back over here, sorry, to our last skillet. Just want to be mindful of my stove. There we go.
That last thing is very close to the edge. I
know. Oh, okay, there we go. Yep, I think everybody can see that. All right, perfect. So back over here, the last things that we're going to add, we've got 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. We've got a teaspoon of red pepper flakes for some heat. And then we cooked here, this is 1 cup of quinoa cooked with 2 cups of water. And we are going to add that in here. So we cooked the quinoa, again, 1 cup of quinoa, 2 cups of water, simmered it for 15 minutes until the water was absorbed, covered for 15 minutes until the water was absorbed and the quinoa was nice and light and fluffy. We're just going to mix that all together. And voila, we've got our easy quinoa and edamame stir fry with all of these beautiful colors. And this is your complete meal here. You've got your whole grain from the quinoa. You're getting some protein from the quinoa and from the edamame. And you're getting some fiber and your veggie power from the cabbage and the cauliflower. Okay. And, you know, we've talked about eating the rainbow and aiming for, 30 different plant foods throughout the week and eating the rainbow of color throughout the day in the week. And this is giving you green and purple and 2 different shades of purple and your orange and yellow. You could throw shredded carrots in here to get some more orange as well. So really colorful and flavorful dish. And then let's go back over here real quick. Check in on our fajitas. So those are, I'll show you real quick. that is warmed through and done, and that's what it looks like when it's finished. So pretty similar. There's just no more ice crystals on the peppers. All right, those are all of our recipes. I know we're like at time, but there's one thing that I just wanted to share real quick with you all. So I'm gonna just share my screen real quick and then check our Q&A. I mentioned that I'm part of the lifestyle medicine team and that we have other classes besides this. This is our Foundations of Lifestyle Medicine class. So if you've enjoyed this culinary class series, but you're looking for more information on the other 6 pillars, highly encourage you to consider this class. It's 6 weeks. We cover a pillar a week. We have afternoon and evening options throughout the year, and you get both the science, but also the practical how-to of how to put those scientific recommendations into action in your everyday life. If you want more information, our email address is there, and you can reach out with any questions. And with that, let's go to the Q&A and see if there's anything that we haven't addressed so far. I think I can see them. Well, yeah, let's see. Oh, thank you for the feedback on the camera placement. I'm glad that was working out better for folks tonight. And you can share. Oh, there's a question about protein needs for people over 60. Again, it depends on how active you are and what other health conditions you've got going on. And if you want a very specific recommendation, feel free to reach out. And one of our dietitians would be happy to have more of a specific conversation with you. As far as sharing these videos, you most definitely can share any of the recordings with anybody in your life, and you're welcome to invite them to come to our classes as well. We'd love to have them join us. Make sure all my skillets are off here. All right, and then, oh, yeah, Mary, that's a great question about the cruciferous vegetables. It does, if you follow this hack and hold method, which is what Mary's referring to, where you cut your cruciferous vegetable, so your broccoli or your cabbage, and then you wait for about 45 to 60 minutes. It's this kind of hack and hold method. Or chop and stop is another phrase that people use. It does allow more of that sulforaphane, that really potent antioxidant, to form, and it does make it more heat stable so that when you cook it, you're losing less of it. And if you really want to maintain the sulforaphane content of your cruciferous vegetables, steaming them lightly for about 3 to 5 minutes is a great way to maintain that sulforaphane content. There's also some research that shows that fermentation can actually increase sulforaphane content. So eating some fermented cruciferous vegetables like a cabbage, sauerkraut, you may be getting some more sulforaphane from that as well. And there was another question about the serving sizes for these recipes. Each one varies a little bit. So I would say, this one right here, the edamame stir fry, is probably like 4 to 6, depending on your portions. And again, your activity levels and kind of what you going on in your life. I'd say probably each of them, the tofu scramble, same thing. And the tempeh stir fry may be more like 2 to 3. So hope that answers that question for you. Awesome. Looks like we got all of the questions. So I really appreciate everyone sticking with us for a little bit longer. And I hope that these recipes gave you some ideas of some new to you plant foods that you can add to your plates. If you do try the recipes, I know I say this every week, but every month, I really do want to hear from you. If you've tried something and either you tweaked it and made it your own in a different way that you really liked, or you tried something new for the first time, I would love to hear your feedback on what you liked or tried. So thank you very much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you all next month when we talk all about flavor and how to add it into our meals. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll see you in a month. Take good care.